So today we're going to look at modeling this thing, so a bacteriophage, which is a type of virus that infects other bacteria and archaea, as we can see here. From our point of view, it's an interesting thing to rig. So we're going to look at rigging the neck here, rigging these legs, and making an overall rig to move it around. We're not going to worry about the geometry in this tutorial. We're just looking at setting up a rig and controllers. So we can see that it's something like that here. And so the only piece of geometry I have is the icosahedral head, just to have something linked to the top of the skeleton. So if I play this animation, you can see that I've got a controller that allows us to move it around. And then the neck is hooked up to a dynamic hair in the joint system that allows that automated secondary motion and that sort of thing. We're going to look at how to set up the legs such that we can grab these controllers and pose the legs however we want. So if this thing was coming down to land on something, we could position the legs however we want them to go. Now here we're seeing some weirdness that whenever we have a dynamic hair or something in the scene, it's not going to respond right away to the changes we make in translation to the root node to which it's connected. So you may see some of that here and there when I'm moving things around, but just know that that's a result of having a dynamic element in the rig. Just going to undo back here. So this is a pretty complex multi-stage process. So let's just look at the structure here, and then in a number of sort of chapters I'll go through setting up the different parts. So if we look here, we've got a controller. So that's this big curve here, or a NURB circle. And then this central control is this box here that allows me to position the kind of hip of this thing. So one of the things that a bacteriophage does is that inside its head it's got genetic material, and there's sort of a needle in its body that is used to pierce other bacteria or archaea membranes, and then it can send the needle down and then inject its genetic material for replication inside that bacteria. So we're not going to model that, but that's what happens in the neck here. So we want to have some sort of control to do something like this. Then we've got the root node. So that is just it's kind of hard to see here. Let me turn off just this joint right at the middle of everything here. And then growing out from that, we've got leg 1, leg 2, and so on. I've got controllers for each of the feet. And one thing that's hidden here is actually a second set of joints. So one for each of the feet that's going up in the opposite direction. This allows us to have the feet stick to a location while the rest of the rig moves. So it's like a reverse foot, if you've ever done that before in a human biped rig. Here we're using 6 reverse feet to control the positioning of each leg. So we'll look at all of that. So there are a number of IK joints in here that we'll see in our setup that are linking different joints together, and we'll talk about each of those in turn. And then, like I say, in the neck we've got a dynamic curve that's part of a hair system. So this is a nucleus dynamic system, hair. So it's end hair, so it's relying on nucleus. And we'll look at how to set that up and how to integrate it into the rig, which is sometimes the tricky part. And you'll see here that there's a follicle that is within the overall rig, and that's the follicle that holds the dynamic curve that controls the animation of the neck. So we'll come back and we'll start with the legs and work our way up.